Okay, just going to be going through the Arm Care Plus 6-day College Pro Pitcher Plan. This is pretty comprehensive. There's a bunch of different split options, speed and agility, quickness, and also an optional training day. And I'm just going to go through each of the themes. So each day, when you get on the app, it's going to tell you what's on the focus for this day. So this one on Thursdays is a glove arm training day, the day before games, or bullpen day. Typically, the hardest throwing days in most programs right now in the season are Fridays and Tuesdays. Basically, you have a lot of opportunity to choose where you want these days to go, but I highly recommend finding your hardest throwing day and then ensuring that at least you have a glove arm training day before, just to give the arm a break. If we went across the entire week, first day Sundays, it's a recovery day, and you can do this after workouts. Guys can do this in their place and just using a foam roll. But the beginnings are all very similar. You have a check-in section, and during the check-in section, we like to get a body weight in the morning or before training, just to see how guys are hydrating, making sure that they start the day. I recommend 2 bottles of water at the beginning, and try to build back any kind of weight that was lost overnight. And then we have questions just indicating how the athlete has slept, or how the throwing arm feels, or how the body feels, and enter those in. Essentially, if your scores are low, okay, if you're not scoring very well in these, I would drop a set on all the exercises, and then if you only have one set on an exercise, I do half the reps, because definitely if you're not feeling great, let's just make that decision right off the hop. Then we got a little bit of a morning routine. Each player, you'll get a handbook, and you'll go through some of the things that are provided in the mental performance section. There's some critical mindset pointers in the handbook to try. A lot of our individual athletes that have a team built around them, they have someone who actually creates a process for a morning routine. I like to start it with an affirmation, so that's why I have it there to build confidence and focus for the day. On the nutrition side, we have a lot of athletes that are using a dietitian, but if you have one at the school, definitely check this with them. Or if you're on any kind of blood thinners, just have a conversation with your doctor, just because beetroot juice is a vasodilator. It helps getting more blood flow into tissue, and a lot of the structures of our elbow or shoulder, ligaments, tendons, they don't get a huge amount of blood supply, not like a muscle does, or an organ. So, giving ourselves a good chance of getting the blood flow going for the day before we leave the house, is something I'd like for you guys to, consider. And then soft tissue care. We use a lot of soft tissue work in our program. I highly believe in a particular brand of salve that we use that has magnesium in it. Again, increases circulation so that we're improving the micro repair after throwing. Causes a little bit of micro damage, and it can be even worse when you have a really high intensity throwing day. So that we have this going on before we leave the house, the arm's getting primed, or before you're doing your activity, just essentially getting everything ready for your throwing day. So that's something that's pretty consistent on each day. And anytime, if you want to inquire about these salves, or you have something else that you utilize that might be topical, this is just an organizer to have that, making sure your arm feels ready, and that it's got a lot of nourishment that's coming to it. And then in this section, it's basically going to walk you through when to take your test. So there'll always be an arm care pre-test routine, and it's all going to be on the app. They'll tell you. We do the pre-throw activation, and then what you'll do is on mound days or high intensity throwing days, you take your fresh exam. You do the primer on all other days. That's a really short test on the Arm Care app. By going to the exam button, you can select the primer, and obviously you're selecting the fresh exam, or the post exam actually will happen after. And then here's your pre-throw routine. So some of our athletes, we actually program in throwing program drills. Yours might live outside of it with your pitching coach, and obviously incorporate your own that you need. These are just 2 that I think are really important in priming rotation. especially with like hip and shoulder separation focus. But you can definitely put in anything you want there on top of it. And then on this day, you'd be taking, let's just say you did have a high intensity bullpen or throwing session on a Sunday. Really recommend that you do your post exam after, monitor your fatigue, and then we have on Sundays this huge foam roll soft tissue work routine, and you can honestly do this, daily after all your training, at your place, if you're watching TV, something like that to get your body reset. And then each day, we have a very similar beginning, and also a little bit of a different ending. So I'm just going to go through a training day, and each one of them has a different focus. This one is a glove arm focus because Tuesday is going to be our hard throwing day, but it's got a lower body split. So what you're going to see is you go through these exercises. They'll say both arms. You do your glove arm here because we're not going to wear it out. And we're doing a concept of training called cross education. And that cross education training, that trains one side of the brain to the other. And we can get a lot of strength actually on our throwing arm by training our glove arm. And the other thing I like to do with the throwing arm is just to focus more on it so that we get more neurological charge to that arm, and it builds a little more endurance rather than having to share the neurological load between both arms when they're working at the same time. And you essentially follow all the training exercises, and it'll walk you through on the app. It's video integrated, so you don't have to worry about that. And then there'll be one component that will be more of an integrated strength and coordination training drill that will be involved from the ground to the fingertips. Sometimes it'll add some rotational elements. And you get this out of the way first because we want to train the arm. It's the main event, getting your arm in the right place when there's a lot of energy for it. And then we go to a warm-up. There's a 5-minute pre-training flow, and then you'll go through your lower body workout. At the end of the day, there's range of motion. You follow those. And then these are the end points of each training day, and it's consistent throughout. This is your checkout. Now, a lot of our pitchers, they purchase their own arm bike, which sits on top of a desk. You can get them from Amazon, and they're doing 5 minutes of that each day just to drive blood flow in. If you're a position player, I highly recommend, the two-way guys doing this at least 3 times a week if they can. And then we go through the checkout work list. So with this checklist, we go through and you're going to rate how hard your training events were that day, whether you threw or it was speed training or you hit or you lifted weights. That's all going to be in there to assess and to give a subjective score. Then we have the post-training routine. Some guys, they're on a regimen from one of our people, and they, if you'll have a shake guide that's in our handbook. So, if you don't have a registered dietitian at your school or that you're working with, or you're not working with one of our people, you'll at least have some guidance in terms of how to make a really good recovery shake. We then go to that soft tissue care right after. So this is post-training. We got another salve that really increases even more blood supply to the pre-damaged and post-damaged tissue after throwing. And then we get a body weight again. So after you've hydrated, at least this gets you understanding and saying, okay, if I lost like 3 pounds of water weight, you're going back and you understand that you need to put that back on. You do not want to have a dehydrated muscle. They're just easier to rip. And so we want to make a point of checking that. And then there's an evening routine, especially in season. I'm really okay with cherry juice each night, 8 ounces, 2 hours before bed. It's a good anti-inflammatory, and it also helps with sleep. It can boost melatonin. And you may have other regimens with your dietitian. We have with our people, we have a whole structured component of what you do to improve your sleep and recovery at night. And then we use another salve at night to increase the overnight circulation to the arm. One of the things that's really important for our company is just to make sure athletes are healthy. They're developing habits that are going to sustain them. They're going to advance velocity in a healthy way. and maintain accuracy. That's the biggest thing, and we don't want to lose neurological charge to the arm, muscular contraction, and we definitely want to get nutrition in there and healing factors, and that's where that circulation comes in. And then at the end of the day, one of the things I believe in and I think is important is having an evening gratitude practice and some kind of visualization. So you want to maintain your positive outlook. Our mental performance coaches, they have recommendations here, but for by and large, your day might not go great. You have to think about something that you're grateful for, so that it really starts to shift your mind and not loop into the world of negativity. And then if it didn't go your way, definitely visualize what would have been the change. What does it look like when it's successful? And then reinforce it when you have a really good game or a great practice session. You're doing all the right things. Visualize what that looks like. And again, we give you a lot of critical mindset pointers in our handbook, and there's lots of information there. Going into the other days just briefly, this will be an upper body split. So you would do your bullpen day this day, and then you'll notice, you're doing your testing, you're doing your fresh exam, you're going to be doing your post exam. But now it's more throwing arm only. Okay. So now we're not sharing the load between arms. We're really focusing on the throwing arm after throwing. We're going to give a pretty high dose of that throwing arm because it's going to allow us to recover well for the subsequent days. We get into the upper body training. There's rhythmic stabilization on that day, and you can do both sides, which I mentioned, so that you don't really wear out the arm. And then we got the range of motion, and we have our end point of that day. Wednesday is a little bit different because it's going to be our first speed, agility, quickness day. We call that day 3. You're going to work on some speed related components, developing force with faster ground contact. And then there's a component on working on spin rate training, which is very focused on particular muscle areas of the fingers. And so that you're applying more friction and you're definitely getting more ride and bite, or east to west movement on the baseball. And this day, because it's intermediate and it's more of a recovery day, there's a lot more to do as far as restorative work and regeneration, okay, and making sure that we're lengthening tissues. Thursday, remember Friday's a tough day. This is going back to it. This is our glove arm day. We're really staying off the legs here, working just glove arm only. And then Friday is going to be a pretty intense day, where ideally you're having your hardest training day. And if Tuesday's one of them, sort of a moderately high, you got 2 days of taking it easy with lighter throwing before you get to this day. And then we go from these custom blocks. There's a small speed and agility session here, that to integrate if you can. And then there's a total body lift that's a little shorter, and that's more dynamic. Now at the beginning, this one's a lighter lift. You can see there's only a couple sets, but it can be dialed up. And if you're really tired, you can move it towards onto Saturday, instead of the optional lift. You can do that it's an optional lift for the throwing arm. So you can definitely do that too. There's some opportunity to do that. And then Saturday, this is where we have that optional arm care day. But we don't want to do it before games or bullpen days. Okay. So this is laid out in the app. And on Saturday, we're doing both arms. We're a little bit different exercise perspectives. And here you're going to get a little bit different training in the strength and coordination training section. It's going to be really reflexive and rotational. And then we have something in here called the integrated trunk stabilization and interlimb connection. And this is going to be with both arms. There are going to be avenues in which we're doing cuff weight type of work. So I'm just showing you this here. You probably have access to cuff weights, but there's a whole bunch that we can look at in doing. This one is it's with drives, and I'm essentially loading a cuff weight on the bottom of my shin, and I'm doing actions with controlling my stability with the cuff weight on top. And so these are essentially creating some control between either sides of the body, okay? And these are pretty inexpensive. I have a 10-pounder here and I got a 5-pounder here, but honestly, as you get stronger and we're working a cross connection, you can make that adjustment and get you where you need to be. So remember, that's Saturday. The Saturday routine is going to have these in here, and then what we have is a recovery component right here where there's going to be some plyo ball work in terms of perturbations. These are vibrational training. They're kind of hard, and we have those, remember, on Tuesdays too. Just so you can take a look. We're going to put in one of these, like a plyo ball exercise. Let's see here, so that you can exactly see what we're doing. I mean, this one might be a snow angel one. We're in quadruped. Remember, we're knocking out the legs, so this is actually a lot harder than you think. And what we're doing here is we're clamping on this thing to create a little blood flow restriction. And that means we're trapping some blood in there in your forearm as you're gripping the heck out of that thing. When you release it, you're going to get all this more blood flow in there. But at the shoulder, we're doing a little of this co-contraction. All the muscles are contracting really fast. This happens to improve reactive muscle strength when we're doing this. So being able to execute contraction in a fast way, and then also stabilizing the joint as you're trying to move it around. And that really helps with the control of your throwing arm. And then when we're doing this vibration, you're going to see you get a lot of burning happening. So that's the circulation element, is like we're creating a little bit more lactic acid up there. And when we, stop it, we are going to be able to get more growth hormone and other things, jammed up there, and a lot more blood flow, going into the area to recover the throwing arm. So that's pretty much a full week. Do as best you can with it. And, obviously each of these are going to have slight modifications, as we go throughout the season. But I'm excited to make this start. It is a big commitment because there's a lot of focused training, and the key is, achieving the goals, winning, and having a really healthy and strong season.